"I don't need money." The words were quiet, almost lost in the noise of children running across the shelter's yard, but they were enough to make Augusto stop mid-step. He was already heading toward the exit, just a few steps away from the armored car waiting for him outside, engine running, when those words hit him. Not softly, not casually. They hit like something real, something heavy. He turned slowly. The place was simple, worn-out walls, old windows, a concrete yard covered in chalk, drawings that were already fading away. He wasn't there for any of that. He was there because it was scheduled, a quick visit, a few photos, a formal gesture for the Foundation's annual report, a generous donation, maybe a short speech about opportunity. Nothing more. Augusto helped people, he always did. He funded hospitals, renovated schools, paid for treatments others couldn't afford. But he never stayed. Helping didn't mean getting involved. Until now. He scanned the yard. In the far corner, near a wall covered in dry vines, a boy stood holding a worn-out soccer ball against his chest. He couldn't be more than 10. Messy hair, clothes slightly too big, like they had belonged to someone else before. But his eyes didn't match the rest. They were steady, too steady. "Don't mind him," the director said quickly, stepping in. "Kids sometimes say things without thinking." But Augusto was already looking straight at the boy. "What did you say?" His voice was controlled, calm, curious. The boy swallowed. The yard went quiet. "I said, I don't need money." The director tried again. "He's new, still adjusting." Augusto raised his hand, without even looking at her. "Then what do you need?" The question came automatically. He had heard everything before: toys, phones, bikes, a way out, a family. Nothing surprised him anymore, but the boy didn't look like he was trying to impress anyone. "I need someone to stay." Something shifted inside Augusto. Not guilt, not exactly. Something closer to discomfort. Stay? People come. Take pictures. Promise they'll come back. And they don't. There was no anger in his voice, just certainty, like he was describing a rule. Augusto noticed something. The engine outside had gone silent. The driver had turned off the car. Some staff members were watching from the entrance. The director was smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. "What's your name?" "Raphael." "And how long have you been here, Raphael?" 3 months. 3 months. Not long, but long enough to learn patterns. Augusto took a step closer, slower than usual, as if each step carried weight. "I help a lot of children," he said, keeping his tone rational. "This place is about to receive a major donation. Computers, books, better facilities." Raphael shook his head slightly. "I know. They already said that." Silence. "Then why do you say you don't need money?" The boy tightened his grip on the ball. "Because money doesn't make people come back." The air changed. Augusto felt his throat dry. That sentence, he knew it. Not from abandonment, from loss. His father had died when he was 12. No warning, no goodbye. And since then, he had learned something very well. Replace emotion with control, pain with discipline, absence with work. "Your parents," he started, then stopped. Raphael didn't look away. "My mom said she'd be back in a week." Pause. "It's been 3 months." The director took a deep breath. "We're trying to locate any relatives. She promised." Raphael interrupted. "Promise." Augusto knew that word. He knew its weight. He looked around again. Everything suddenly felt smaller, more insufficient. "And you think I can make someone come back?" Raphael shrugged. "I don't know." Pause. "But you look like someone who can make people stay." That hit differently. Augusto knew how to build companies, hospitals, fortunes, but making someone stay, that was something else. His phone vibrated. He ignored it. For the first time in years. "What do you want me to force?" "Do?" Raphael thought for a moment. "Come back tomorrow. Simple. No money, no miracles. Consistency." I have a very busy schedule. Everyone does, the boy said calmly. But people always find time for what matters. The director stepped in again. Raphael, that's enough. But Augusto stopped her. It's fine. He looked at the boy. If I come back tomorrow, will you believe me? Raphael hesitated. No. Silence. But I'll wait. That was worse. Much worse. I'll come back tomorrow. The driver raised an eyebrow. The director was clearly surprised. Raphael just nodded, no smile, like he was holding it back. Augusto walked toward the car. This time it felt longer. He got in, closed the door. Sir? The driver asked. Wait a minute. He looked through the window. Raphael was already playing with the ball again, but every few seconds he looked at the car, measuring, promise against reality. The car finally pulled away, and during the entire drive, Augusto didn't say a word. The boy's voice kept repeating in his head, over and over again. Money doesn't make people come back. I need someone to stay. And for the first time in years, something inside him didn't fit. The drive back home felt longer than usual. Or maybe it wasn't the distance. Maybe it was his mind. Because Augusto couldn't stop thinking. The boy, the words, the way he said them. They didn't fade. They didn't soften. They stayed. Money doesn't make people come back. I need someone to stay. He leaned his head back, against the seat, staring out the window without really seeing the city. Lights passed by, blurred, meaningless. Then it hit him. That emptiness. The same one he had buried years ago. His house had always been big, too big. Long corridors, perfect rooms, everything in place, everything run empty. Elegant dinners, polite conversations, carefully measured laughter, but nothing real, nothing that stayed. How many times had he promised himself he would slow down? How many times had he said, later? He never did. The car stopped. We're here, sir. Augusto didn't respond right away. He stayed inside for a few extra seconds, as if stepping out meant going back to the same life. Eventually, he opened the door, walked through the entrance hall without greeting anyone, went straight to his office, sat down in front of the glass window. The city was shining, but it felt distant. His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. This time he answered. Augusto, we need to confirm your attendance for tomorrow night's event, his assistant said. He looked at the open schedule on his desk. Meetings, lunch with investors, site visits, a charity event. Everything perfectly organized, everything perfectly pointless. Cancel the morning. Silence. Sir, cancel the morning. You have a critical meeting with... Cancel it. Another pause. Yes, sir. He hung up and stared at the phone for a few seconds. He had just done something he almost never did. Prioritize something that didn't bring profit, or status, or strategy, just a promise. That night he barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he didn't see numbers. He saw a boy, holding a worn-out ball, waiting without believing. That was the worst part, not the doubt, the habit of being disappointed. The next morning Augusto went back, not out of obligation, out of discomfort. Something inside him wouldn't let it go. The car stopped in front of the shelter. No photographers, no assistants, just him and the driver. Before the shelter was even fully open, he saw him. Raphael was sitting on the steps, same ball, same posture, but his eyes, focused, observing, measuring. Augusto stepped out. The boy looked him up and down, looking for proof. You came back. It wasn't excitement, it was verification. I said I would. Raphael nodded, a small flicker in his eyes, barely visible. The director appeared behind them. Mr. Augusto, we weren't expecting... I'm not here to donate today, he interrupted. I'm here to talk. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Augusto and Raphael walked toward a bench in the yard. Away from the noise, the morning sun hit the cracked concrete. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. "Do you always do this?" Augusto asked. "Do what?" "Test people." Raphael looked down. "Only the ones who say they'll come back." Pause. "Do they fail often?" The boy nudged a small rock with his foot. "Almost always. No anger, just facts." That made it worse. Augusto studied him more closely. There was something different about him. He didn't ask for attention, didn't try to please. He evaluated, like someone who had already learned not to expect much. "Do you like soccer?" Raphael lifted the ball slightly. "My mom said I was a good goalkeeper." The word mom landed differently. Heavy. "Did she play with you?" "No. But she watched." Pause. "Even when she was tired?" That hit, harder than expected. Even when she was tired. How many times had Augusto used exhaustion as an excuse? What happened to her? Raphael took a moment. She started changing. Changing how? Like she was worried all the time. He looked at his hands. Sometimes she cried at night, thinking I couldn't hear her. The air grew heavier. She said she had to fix something. What? Raphael shook his head. She never explained. Pause. Just said she had made a mistake and needed to correct it. Augusto frowned slightly. Mistake. That word lingered. And then, one day she said she had to travel for a week. Pause. That she would fix everything and come back. Silence. She left me here temporarily. Augusto felt pressure in his chest. And she never came back. Raphael shook his head slowly. The police said they didn't find anything. No accident. No record. Nothing. The silence that followed was different, darker. Do you have any relatives? Augusto asked. Raphael hesitated. Just one name. What name? The boy looked straight at him, more intense than before. Augusto Vasconcelos. Everything stopped. No sound, no movement. Just that. Name. Falling between them. Heavy. Final. Augusto didn't react immediately. But something inside him shifted. Who told you that? My mom. The air tightened. Why? She said she needed to fix something with you. Pause. Before it was too late. Augusto felt his throat go dry. I don't know your mother. Raphael didn't look away. She said you didn't know. That was different. More dangerous. Didn't know what? Silence stretched. What's your mother's name? Clara Mendez. The name didn't trigger an immediate memory, but it triggered something else, a feeling distant buried. How old are you? 10. Augusto did the math. Automatically. 10 years ago. Something moved. A blurred memory. An internal investigation. A report. An employee. Where did your mother work? At a big company. Downtown. Pause. She said that's where everything started. Augusto's pulse quickened. His company, or rather, the group he had inherited. He sat down slowly. Do you have a photo of her? Raphael opened his backpack, pulled out a folded envelope. Inside, a picture. A woman. Dark hair. Soft smile. Holding a small child. Augusto stared at it, carefully. He didn't recognize her, but something about her expression felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. Did she say anything else about me? Raphael nodded. She said you were a fair man. Pause. But that maybe you had been deceived. The word hit hard. Deceived. Augusto felt a cold sensation run through him. He thought about reports, quick decisions, signatures without deep review, delegated trust. Are you sure about that? Yes, no hesitation, no doubt. Augusto took a deep breath. I need to check something. Raphael tilted his head slightly. Are you coming back? Again. The same test. But now, heavier. Augusto held his gaze. I'm coming back. Raphael didn't smile, but his shoulders relaxed. Just a little. For the first time. Augusto stood up. The world was no longer the same. As he walked out of the shelter, something had been activated, and it wasn't just a promise, it was doubt, a dangerous one, growing fast, too fast. The drive to the office felt shorter than usual, or maybe his thoughts were just moving faster, because Augusto didn't stop thinking for a second. The name, the company, the timeline. It was starting to connect, too well, and that was dangerous. He walked into the building without slowing down, didn't greet anyone, didn't look around. "I need access to the audit files from 10 years ago," he said as soon as he stepped into his office. His assistant hesitated. "Sir, those records are archived physically." "Then bring them, no discussion." Hours later, Augusto was alone in the meeting room, surrounded by folders, dust, old paper, forgotten history. He opened the file. Clara Mendez. The name wasn't abstract anymore, it was real, too real. He flipped through the pages slowly. At first, everything looked normal. Reports, signatures, conclusions, fraud, immediate dismissal, case closed, clean, too clean. He frowned, went back, slower this time. And then he saw it. Dates that didn't match, duplicated entries, signatures placed at impossible times. A pattern. Subtle, but undeniable. Something was wrong. A name appeared more than once. Carlos Farias, Chief Financial Officer at the time, responsible for the investigation. Augusto closed his eyes. He remembered him. Barely. Carlos had left the company months later. No scandal, no explanation, no follow-up. And Augusto never questioned it. Never reviewed the case again. He had trusted. Too much. What if it wasn't fraud? The thought appeared and stayed. What if Clara was used? His stomach tightened. If that was true, then this wasn't just a mistake. It was an injustice. One that had destroyed a life. Maybe more than one. He grabbed his phone. "I want Carlos Farias located. Today." Silence on the other end. "Sir, he's been out of the country for years." "Find him anyway." He hung up and stared at the documents again, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Guilt. If Clara had been framed, if she lost her job, her stability, her reputation, if she disappeared trying to fix it, then Rafael wasn't there by coincidence. None of this was coincidence. His phone vibrated again, this time not a meeting. Information. "Sir, we found something." Augusto straightened. "Talk." "A few hours ago, the police contacted the shelter." His pulse quickened. "Why?" "They found something related to Clara Mendez." Silence. "What kind of record?" Hospital admission, everything stopped." "Is she alive?" "They don't know yet." The call ended. Augusto didn't hesitate. He left immediately. The car was already waiting, but this time, he wasn't going alone. When he arrived at the shelter, Rafael was inside, in a small room, studying. As soon as he saw Augusto, he stood up. "You came back." Not surprise. Continuity. Augusto sat across from him. "I need to ask you something important." Rafael nodded, focused. "Did your mother ever mention the name Carlos Farias?" The boy froze, a second, two. "Yes." Augusto's heart hit harder. "What did she say about him?" Rafael took a breath. "That he was the man who destroyed her life." Silence. Heavy. "She also said," he hesitated, "that one day you would find out everything. That changed everything. This wasn't just past, it was a warning, one that had been waiting for 10 years. Augusto leaned forward slightly. "I'm going to find the truth." Rafael looked at him. No fear. "I know." But before Augusto could respond, the door opened abruptly. The director stepped in, visibly shaken. "Mr. Augusto, we need to talk." That tone wasn't normal. It was urgent. Augusto stood up. "What happened?" She took a breath. "The police called again." Rafael stood. Did they find my mum? The director hesitated. They found a recent record. Silence filled the room. What kind of record? Augusto asked. A hospital. Raphael took a step forward. Is she alive? The director looked at Augusto before answering. We don't know. And in that moment, Augusto understood something. This wasn't just a promise anymore, it wasn't just doubt. This was a live story. Dangerous. And it was only beginning. The drive to the hospital was completely silent. Raphael didn't let go of the ball for a second. He held it tightly against his chest, his fingers turning pale from the pressure. Augusto watched him through the reflection on the window. There was fear, but something else too. Something more dangerous. Hope. The kind that can save. Have you seen to or break you? When they arrived, the hospital wasn't like the places Augusto was used to. No marble floors, no quiet elegance, just crowded hallways, people waiting, fatigue embedded in the walls. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. Augusto walked up to the reception desk, said his name. The effect was immediate. Looks, phone calls, doors opening. Minutes later, a nurse was guiding them down a more restricted corridor. She was admitted 4 days ago, the nurse said quietly. No full identification. Raphael was walking faster now. She was found unconscious near a terminal, the nurse continued. Severe dehydration, extreme exhaustion. They stopped in front of a door. She's under observation. Raphael barely breathed. Can I see her? The nurse hesitated. Augusto answered for him. He's going in. The door opened, and everything changed. Clara was there, thinner than in the photo, pale, hair messy, but alive. Raphael walked slowly, like any sudden movement might make her disappear again. Mom. The word barely came out. A whisper. Clara's eyes opened slowly, confusion first, then focus, and when she saw Raphael, something lit up. Rafa. She tried to sit up, couldn't. Raphael grabbed her hand, gently, carefully, like it was something fragile, sacred. Augusto stayed near the door, watching, feeling something heavy growing in his chest. Then Clara saw him, and everything shifted. Her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Augusto. Her voice was weak, but urgent. I needed to talk to Payu. Augusto stepped closer. You disappeared. Clara closed her eyes for a moment. I was trying to fix a mistake. The air tightened. What mistake? Augusto asked, even though he already suspected. Clara struggled to breathe evenly. The report. The one that accused me. Pause. It was manipulated. Silence. Raphael looked between them, not understanding everything, but feeling everything. Carlos altered the numbers. Clara continued. I found evidence months after I was fired. Augusto felt something hit internally. Why didn't you come to me? I tried. Pause. But I never got past reception. That landed harder than expected. After that, the threats started. Everything changed. What kind of threats? Augusto asked. Clara looked at Raphael. Messages, calls. Pause. They told me to forget everything, or my son could get hurt. Raphael tightened his grip on her hand. Is that why you left me at the shelter? Clara closed her eyes. I had to protect you. Augusto felt the ground shift. This wasn't an administrative mistake. This was bigger, much bigger. Do you still have the evidence? He asked. Clara nodded slightly. I hid it. Where? She looked at Raphael. At the bottom of your blue backpack. Raphael's eyes widened. The one you gave me? Yes. Silence. It's at the shelter. Augusto took a breath. We need to get it. Now. But before he could say anything else, the door opened. Hard. 2 men walked in. Dark suits. Cold presence. The first one smiled. But there was nothing warm about it. Augusto Vasconcelos. The voice was calm. Too calm. Augusto recognized him instantly. Thinner, older, but unmistakable. Carlos Farias. The air froze. Raphael tensed. Clara went pale. "You shouldn't have come back, Clara," Carlos said, as if discussing something trivial. Augusto stepped forward. "Get out." Carlos ignored him. "I just came to talk." The second man closed the door. The sound was sharp, final. The room suddenly felt smaller. "We know you've been reviewing old files," Carlos continued, looking at Augusto. "You were never good at hiding your movements. The threat wasn't explicit, but it was there." "You manipulated the reports," Augusto said. Carlos tilted his head slightly. "Business requires difficult decisions." Pause. "Sometimes someone has to take the blame." "To protect what?" Augusto asked. Carlos looked directly at Raphael. Stability. Silence. Brutal. Clara tried to sit up. "You destroyed my life." Carlos sighed. "I offered you money to disappear. And I refused." Carlos smiled. "That was your mistake." Augusto stepped closer. "If you think you can intimidate a child—" Carlos cut him off. "I'm not intimidating anyone." Pause. "I'm just reminding you that some stories are better left buried." The other man took a step forward, partially blocking the exit. Augusto understood. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. "You're making a mistake," he said, controlling his voice. Carlos smiled faintly. "The only mistake was you going back to that shelter yesterday." Augusto's heart stopped for a second. "How do you know that?" Carlos looked straight at him. "I always know. That confirmed it. They were being watched." Raphael trembled. "Mom." Clara squeezed his hand. Augusto made a decision. Instant. "If you touch either of them, I will destroy every company you've built since you left mine." Carlos laughed softly. "You still think you have that kind of power?" Augusto stepped closer, very close. "I never lost it." Silence. Pure tension. Carlos studied him for a few seconds, then smiled, cold. "This isn't over." He turned, signaled, and walked out. The door closed. The air slowly returned. Raphael was still shaking. "He's going to hurt us." Augusto knelt in front of him. "No." Pause. "Not while I'm here." And in that moment, he understood. This wasn't about money or reputation or control. This was about staying, protecting, keeping a promise. He stood up, pulled out his phone. "I want private security in this hospital. Now." He looked at Clara. "And tomorrow, we get that backpack." Clara held his gaze. "He won't stop." Augusto answered without hesitation. "Neither will I." But deep down, he knew the truth. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And whatever was inside that backpack could destroy far more than they imagined. The next morning, Augusto didn't go to the office. He went back to the shelter. But this time, he wasn't alone. Two men stood outside. Quiet, alert, not assistants, security. Raphael walked faster than usual. Silent, like every second mattered, like something could go wrong at any moment. They entered the room. The blue backpack was still there, same place, inside the metal locker. Raphael grabbed it carefully, held it against his chest. "It's all here." They left without drawing attention, got into the car, and only when the doors closed, Raphael opened it. Inside, folded clothes, a notebook, and at the bottom, a sealed envelope, taped shut. Augusto took it. Firm hands, but a racing pulse. He opened. Papers, a lot of them. Comparison tables, system logs, dates, everything clear, precise, irrefutable. The original numbers and the altered ones, the access, the name. Carlos Farias, no doubt, no suspicion. A complete construction, a designed fraud. And Clara had been the shield. Augusto closed his eyes for a moment. 10 years. 10 years of silence, of injustice, of a life destroyed. He opened them again, looked at Raphael. "Your mum was telling the truth." The boy nodded, like he had never doubted it. "She always said the truth takes time." A pause. But it arrives. Something settled inside Augusto. Solid. Then let's make it arrive. And this time, it wasn't just a sentence. It was action. In the following hours, everything moved. Lawyers, audits, full internal review, urgent emails, direct calls. But this time, Augusto wasn't protecting numbers. He was protecting a life. By the end of the day, he called for a press conference. The room was full. Journalists, investors, employees. The tension was already there. Rumors had spread. Augusto stepped onto the stage, took a breath, and spoke. 10 years ago, an employee of this company was dismissed for fraud. Murmurs. Today, after a complete review. Pause. We discovered that decision was based on internal manipulation. The name dropped. Carlos Farias. Impact. Cameras flashing. Whispers rising. The company failed. Silence. And I failed. That wasn't common. Failed to supervise. Failed to question. Pause. And for that, I take responsibility. The word lingered. Responsibility. Legal action has already been initiated, and we will establish a permanent fund to repair damages caused by unjust decisions. The room erupted in questions, but Augusto wasn't done. Justice isn't just correcting numbers. Pause. It's repairing lives. Cut. That same night, Carlos Farias was formally investigated, contracts suspended, partners withdrawing, authorities stepping in. The structure he had built was collapsing. But for Rafael, none of that was the most important thing. The most important thing was in the hospital. Clara was recovering, slowly. When Augusto entered the room, she looked at him differently. "You did it." He nodded. "The truth is out." Clara closed her eyes. Tears fell. Quietly, Rafael hugged her carefully. "I told you he was fair." Augusto felt the weight of that word. Fair. But he didn't want to be just that anymore. In the following days, everything shifted. Security increased. The threat stopped. Carlos had lost control. But something was still unfinished. One night, Rafael was asleep, in a chair, next to the bed. Clara called Augusto closer. "There's something else." He stepped forward. "When I was fired." Pause. "I found out I was pregnant. Everything stopped. I never told anyone." Silence. Not even the father. The air changed. "The father?" Augusto asked. Clara looked straight at him, no hesitation. "We had something. Brief. Before I was transferred. Everything started connecting. Too fast. Too clear. I didn't know at the time," she continued. "I found out later." Augusto felt the ground shift beneath him. He looked at Rafael, sleeping, peaceful. "Are you saying that?" Clara nodded, tears forming. "Rafael is your son." Silence. No explosion, no shouting, just something inside him. Rearranging. Augusto walked to the window, tried to breathe, everything aligned, the timeline, the connection, the insistence. "I need someone to stay." It wasn't just a sentence, it was something else. The next morning they ran the test, quietly, no media, no noise. 3 days later, confirmation. Rafael was his son. When Augusto told him, the boy didn't react the way he expected. No drama, just silence, thinking. "So, you were always my dad." Augusto knelt in front of him. "Biologically, yes." Pause. "But I didn't know. And that's something I will regret for the rest of my life." Rafael looked at him, evaluating, like the first day. "Are you going to stay?" The same question. But now. Final. Augusto held his face gently. "I'm not going anywhere." Rafael hugged him, tight, and in that moment, Augusto understood something no report had ever taught him. Money builds structures, but presence builds people. Months later, Clara had fully recovered. Rafael officially left the shelter. Augusto's house changed. It wasn't silent anymore. It wasn't empty. But he didn't stop there. He built something new, the Stay Institute, a different kind of project, not based on donations, based on presence, real involvement, adults who come back, who keep their promises, who stay. At the entrance, a phrase, "Money helps, but presence transforms." Years later, Raphael, now older, stood in front of an audience. The hardest thing isn't having nothing. Pause. It's feeling like no one stays. He looked forward. Augusto was there. "My father taught me something." Silence. "Real value isn't in giving. It's in staying." Augusto felt his eyes burn. That night, they walked together in the garden. Raphael held the same ball, the same one. "Dad." "Yeah, I still don't need money." Augusto smiled. "I know." Raphael looked at him. "I just needed you to stay." Augusto placed his arm over his shoulders. "And I needed to learn that." The house lights were on. Clara was laughing on the terrace, free for the first time. The promise had been kept, and it had changed everything.